Football Manager is a game of fine margins, but there is a way to combine all those fine margins to actually create something substantial. If you've got that big match coming up, the local derby, the FA Cup final, the Champions League final, the final game of the season where you need to win to get your first trophy, there's really nice ways to prepare in Football Manager for those big games. And today we're going to pull all those bits together to show you exactly what you need to do to be best prepared to destroy the opposition. Let's go. So I mentioned one of those big games is going to be a local derby, and that's what we've got to prepare for today in today's video. Swansea versus Cardiff, the South Wales derby in the Sky Bet Championship. So we need to prepare for this game to make sure that our performance on the pitch is maximised. We're going to do some preparation work, we're going to do a bit of a SWOT analysis explanation, and then we're going to take all our findings, change our tactic, show you how to save that as a specific tactic for the game, and then get into the game to see if it makes any difference whatsoever. So let's do the preparation work to start with. And that preparation starts in the scouting area. We're going to come up to scouting coverage and look at match and team analysis. If you click that, you will come up with this screen where you've got next opposition, specific match and specific team. But for the purpose of match preparation, we're looking at next opposition. You're going to go into your scouting pool, choose your best scout. In our case is Derek Langley. Choose analysis. In our case is going to be Ben Parker. Click confirm and make sure you hit confirm down here, because otherwise it will reset. Now you can see they've gone grey, and that is our preparation. Every time we come up against a team, we will get an opposition team report. You get an opposition report regardless, but this is for the team report. The next preparation is all in the data hub. There's a section here where you will get your next opponent, and this is the soonest you can start analysing them. Now, as soon as the game finished against Bristol City, which was 2 weeks ago, I could come into here and click on next opponent, and all this would be relevant to Cardiff. It would show the expected tactic, the tactical styles, some of the key findings, and there's other areas we'll jump into in a bit which will link into the SWOT analysis. And then the final element of preparation is the email we get approximately 4 days before, where you get your pre-match opposition report. So for preparation, these are three other areas we're going to look at. You've got some key findings, but ultimately you want to look at the full opposition report. And this is where we start our SWOT analysis. Now, as a brief SWOT analysis, it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are internal. That's our club. So we're going to look at our team to find out our strengths and weaknesses, and then opportunities and threats, that's external. So we're going to look at the opposition to find out where the opportunities are to take advantage and where the threats are potentially going to be where they can take advantage of us. Does that make sense? I'll try and keep it very simple. It's just the four areas: strengths, weaknesses, internal, opportunities, threats, the opposition. So the first part we're going to look at are the opposition, opportunities and threats. Now that's going to be in the data. This is going to be the starting point. Now you can click on each of these to get a little flavor, but I like to go a little bit deeper, and that's up in next opponent, and it's working your way down here. So next opposition performance. This is a lovely way to not even click at these. Now we're whites because we're Swansea and the Blues are Cardiff, so we can immediately find out here where the weaknesses are. Now it starts off at passing. Cardiff are one of the worst passers in the league, fewer passes and inaccurate passing, and that is backed up when you come over to assisting midfielders. When if we enlarge this one, we can see that a lot of their midfielders are less creative, low quality creating from open play, so they're not a creative team. And that is further backed up when you look at the goalkeepers. The fact that these goalkeepers are fewer passes and inaccurate is insane. Now we are one of the better ones because we play it short, so this indicates to me that the goalkeepers for Cardiff go long. If they're losing the ball that often, they cannot be making little tiki-taka passes to centre back, so they're going to be going long. So that is the first note I'm going to put down for my tactical tweak, and I'll tell you why when we get there. So goalkeepers will be kicking the ball long, and once again you can go into every single area of these, but for me I like to just take a snapshot. Following from that, you have the scout report, which gives you a little bit more detail of the players and some of the weaknesses they've got. So for example, there's age, there's height, there's weight, there's a comparison, and if you look to the left hand side, you will see they give you some strengths and weaknesses. Again, focusing on weaknesses, they're not competitive, they're not aggressive, and the squad tend to lack good heading, which leads into us perfectly. The next element is the analyst report, and this is the one I get more more from than the scout report, to be fair, because it will give you some areas of negativity. And there's one person here called Mark McGuinness who's lost possession more than any other player. So once again, that's going to go on my list of things to tweak, that we're going to press this lad to make sure if he's going to lose possession, he's going to be a chink in their armor. And one more thing that stands out here is where we got Cedric Kipres won back possession very centrally. Coming down here, regain possession, very central again. And the final third entries where they're making forward passes into our final third attacking, again, very central. So that is going to be their main crux of attack. And then the final element where we can get some more data from the data hub, our first pace, is the stat pack. And I really like this one for one reason. For Cardiff and for us, if they concede first, they very, very rarely win. 1 win, 5 draws, 18 losses. So this links into how we're going to start the game. Now, you could start on a balance, you still could start on a low tempo, or you could go like a bat to the hell, high tempo to get the lead. This tells me they're mentally quite weak, because when they go behind, they're not going to come back. And on top of that, if we look at the white columns here, if we score first, we win 15 as opposed to drawing 3 and losing just the 1. So that first goal is so important. So the stat pack is a lovely way to look at that. You can compare players, but to be fair, you know that regardless. They're your stats, they're your players. The final part of the data is past meetings, which unless you're 10, 15 years in the future, this doesn't really give a story. We played once this season, we drew 2-2, and that is it for the data hub preparation for the SWOT analysis, looking at the opportunities and the threats against Cardiff City. The next part we'll jump into now, and that is the email that we get 4 to 5 days before the game. So again, we've got your little things you can jump into. McGuinness, who we mentioned previously as a weakness, he is going to be somebody we target. If you look at him, he's the darker color and his pass completion is just 64%, which is incredibly low, 14.5 fewer than the average championship player. So I'm thinking bad passing, I'm thinking bad composure. Let's take a look at him. There he is, Mark McGuinness, a centre back for Cardiff. He's decent at being a centre back, to be fair, even with passing of 11, composure of 12, none of it is terrible. But when you look at his vision of 8, that is not good. So taking a look at the other key findings, last match XG is incredibly low from Cardiff's point of view. They got 2 goals, but it wasn't expected. This was against the run of play. They beat Rotherham 2-1 away from home, which is a great result, but with a 0.54 XG. In terms of their passing numbers, they are very low. I think they're the second worst in the league if you look at it from that point of view, whereas we are just up here in definitely the top 7 or 8 as the best passers, and this is an area where we're going to dominate. Taking a look at the last match passes, this is a screen I've previously shown you at that terrible mess of a formation, and there's Mr. McGuinness. Pass combination 62. He's sitting deep. I know exactly what we're going to do with this boy, and we're going to terrorize him. I'm sorry, Mark. And finally, match momentum. This is another lovely way to find out generally how Cardiff perform across a 90-minute spells. Additionally, on this email, if you come down to full opposition report, another really nice way to find out strengths and weaknesses, and there's so much more here that will paint a picture of the team you're coming up against. Everything here is almost irrelevant to you, the viewer. This will all be catered to exactly what you're looking at for the team you're coming up against. Now, I'm pretty much okay with the weaknesses. The only thing I'll add to this is the aggression. They're quite weak in the tackle, so that's something that we can take advantage of quite easy there, which I'm also adding to the list. Now it's time to look at the threats, where they're actually going to be quite decent. And if we look at what they're doing, crossing, 8 of a total of 13 assists have come from crosses. That's going to be a danger for us. If they're going to play these 2 wingers or an inverted winger, that's going to be the areas of the pitch where they're going to attack us. And then the final part on the team report here is squad comparison, and I bloody love this one because you can go into every single position, every single stat to find out where you're going to get those fine margins. And I'm not going to go through every one, but we already know defensively they're going to be a bit weaker in terms of their passing, their positioning. So let's take a look at the technical side of the game. Passing, we've got an average of 12.1, they're down at 11.1, a whole point attribute that we have got above them. And backing up the theme that they are going to be dangerous from crosses, they are almost 1.5 attributes better than us at crossing. So that is an area of concern for us. Now mentally, I'm loving this because if you look at the middle line down here, we're pretty much above them all the way across the board from a mental point of view. And when it comes to big games, this is arguably the most important area. You've got the big game management, you've got the determination, the work rate, the leadership, and bravery is going to come into it as well. These are areas areas where we are going to exceed and batter them. Okay, so coming back out of there to the original email where we got the opposition report. We clicked on the full opposition report. The other ones are the scout report, which we've already shown, and the final one is the analyst report, which is the best way to find out what they've been doing over a longer period of time. So we know for the last 20 matches, they've used 3 formations: 4-2-3-1, 5-2-3, and a 4-3-3. And even then, look, 83% of the time, that's the formation they've gone for. So I think, I'm almost certain, that's the formation we're going to come up against today. Okay, so we've got a lovely picture here of how we can get the best out of this game so far. Ignore my terrible writing, but that's what I've scribbled down. This is basically the crux of the game. And you should all do the same. A little notepad, make your notes, where the weaknesses, the threats and the opportunities, and how you can take advantage of them. Next stage is the tactic page, of course. Now we're going to start putting the meat on the bones to make sure that the tactic we've got, so this is my bread and butter tactic, is slightly tweaked to take advantage of the weaknesses. So if you've got your tactic here, mine is called the front 5 in number 1, I would suggest going on the plus, copying front 5. So you've got 2 variations of it. This means that you're tweaking this one constantly and leaving your base one nice and clean. So let's start off with the passing point of view. Now for me, the goalkeeper was kicking it long every time. Now what's the point of us preventing short goalkeeper distribution? We're basically going to lose 3, maybe even 4 players immediately because the ball's just going to go over their head. So we're going to remove that with the assumption that the ball is going to come flying over these 3 here and they're going to sit back a lot more. Trigger press we're going to keep much more often because they're so sketchy at the back. I do want us to press them if they do have the ball. The only other area we're going to add onto here is the crosses. That is their danger zone. So stopping crosses will ask the team to seek to avoid defending crosses into the penalty area. We don't want the balls coming in because that's where they're clearly good at. So we're going to press out to stop the crosses. In terms of in possession then, let's not forget if we score first, they're in the mud. So we want a high tempo to start with. We're going to get into their faces from the first second. They play very narrow and everything comes through the middle. So I'm not going to ask us to play through the middle because the formation we play, it may not look very strong in the middle, but the inverted wing backs slotting in do give us a lot of support for that central role. So I'm confident with the tactic I've got. And again, you know your own tactics. If you think that you're not strong in the middle, do something to change that. I'm quite confident that in the center of the park, we can do enough. So all we're going to tweak here is the higher tempo. Now the final parts are more individual tweaking. Now let's not forget Mr. McGuinness, the centre back. He's a bit of a nightmare, isn't he? So we're going to take a little look who we've got up top here. In fact, we're going to put Pirro, who's a little bit slower, and Sikumara, who's got a bit of pace. He's decent mentally and he will track the players as a pressing forward quite nicely. We'll leave him as an advanced forward because it's the best for playing on the line, but we're going to ask him to mark a specific player in Mr. McGuinness because I want him, whenever he's on the ball, to be under pressure. So he's going to lose the ball at every opportunity and the shadow strikers behind will get lots of opportunities to come through on that. Now let's not forget their strength is crossing the ball at the moment. Now we've got 2 inverted wing backs on attack. I want to leave them like that because they are going to cut in to offer support where they're attacking through the central areas, and defensive wingers, they cover back quite nicely anyway. But if that's not working, these will shift very quickly to wing backs on support, I want to say, just to make sure they're back here to stop those crosses coming in. So we've done the team instructions, we've done the individual instructions. Let's jump into opposition instructions just to kind of marry what we're going to do. So McGuinness, he's going to be man marked anyway, so we're going to put tight marking on him as always and trigger press as in always as well. He is a weak point. We want to get into him and make sure the mistakes are going to be coming out of him. Now the crosses, they're the dangerous part. Philogene and Robinson. So Philogene's on the right and he's very strong on his right foot, reasonable on his left. So he's not necessarily got a weak foot, but I'd rather allow him to cut inside. So we're going to push him onto his weaker foot, which is the final one here, which means he's going to cut inside. And then that cross is more unlikely to result in a goal. Robinson, in hindsight, is very strong on his right foot and weak on his left. So we're going to, once again, put him onto his weaker foot, which is outside. And if he's crossing the ball with a poor foot, that's fine. And the man up top, Kaba, what are we saying? 6'3", so he is a target forward. 15 goals in 27. What we're going to do is pull Wood out and put Cabango in there. A bit more height there to counteract that tall striker. striker. Okay, so that's our tactic done, and it's not been changed from this one here. We've got the original and we've got this other one. Now the final thing I'm going to do is change the mentality to attacking. Again, just off the bat, I want to get that early goal, and once we scored it, we can tweak accordingly. And now we're at game day, the final little bits of the puzzle you can put into place. There's one more that I probably would do, but I hate doing it. If you come into dynamics, you can pull a team meeting. If it's that important a game such as a Champions League final, they'll come up regardless. I don't like doing them because they're very, very sketchy in Football Manager. So that is all the prep work. It might seem a lot, but in theory it's like 3 different areas. We do the preparation bit first of all, you do your SWOT analysis, and then it's looking at all the data, scribbling it down, tweaking the tactic, and now it's game day. Let's go and lose 4-0, shall we? At this stage, the team's already picked itself. You've done your due diligence. Make sure you're on the one that you tweaked, not the original one, and then get into the game. I'm not going to go into set pieces. You obviously know to make sure that you map up your tall ones to your short ones, etc. That's something that we're not going to go through right now. Although for my set pieces, they're short corners, which will be a video soon on the manager seat because that appears to be quite overpowered. Right, game day. Okay, it's very important now. When the team is announced, make sure there's no last minute changes. The 4-2-3 one we knew. McGuinness is centre back. I'm happy. I don't need to change anything else. Let's get into the game and look at some key highlights to show how what we've done has affected things. Okay, we've just had a defensive free kick at the back, and now we're regrouping and we're coming forward, hopefully with good numbers. Cundle out on the right hand side. He's got numbers in front of him, and Fulton offers the option. Now, are we going to take advantage of McGuinness? Mara is on his toes if you look at the boy up front then. He's got right behind the last man. He's got pace on his side and he's through. Is he going to score? He is! Get in there! That man marking, that advance forward right at the edge on that weak point. Within 10 minutes, we got 1-0 up, and we know what that means with Cardiff. So now you tweak, you go back to positive. Maybe you can shift up the tempo if you want to, and in this instance, I am going to, just to kind of weather a storm if we need to. Okay, we're up very high up the pitch with a long throw. Pirot's in time. Sarmiento makes it 2-0 within 20 minutes. That's fantastic work. Dropping Pirot into that shadow striker role and putting him there as a little flick on those long throws has worked very well indeed. Again, this will be part of the set piece video coming up. They've all been added. Okay, half time, and it's an early corner to Cardiff. Let's not forget, this is where they get their ascendancy. So maybe we drop it back to balance now. Oh, against Rotherham, they had a period of time from like this up until maybe the 65th minute where they had the better of the match momentum. So we're going to kind of weather the storm until 60. They're very deep at the moment, which suits us because we're great at getting a front 5 up against their centre-backs. And Cullen goes well to Ramsey, who's got an option in the middle, picks up Mara. It's 3-0. Come on. But now all I'm going to do is revert back to the bread and butter original tactic that we have. We're stopping the cross, but we didn't stop it enough, and it's bloody 3-1. Okay. Let's look at the changes they've made. If you look, 4 substitutes have come on in very prime positions. You've got Renometer, Isaac Davis, O'Dowda and Colwell. Now Isaac Davis on the left, he's the one who's just come on and scored a goal. There he is. This is the boy who scored. Just running in. Nobody's marking him. Acres of space. That's in-game management. You've got to look at those substitutes coming on. The 83rd minute, and we've got to throw in an attacking position. Pirot comes deep for it again. Okaflex wins it. Witz is there. Options out wide. Now we want to get that ball in because we're good in those positions. Okaflex dinks it in there. Mara, he's got himself a hat-trick. Come on, mate. That's fantastic. Shifting him up into that advanced forward position, pushing him onto the last line of defence has worked wonders. McGuinness, I can't see him on the pitch. I think they pulled him off, you know. The number 5 isn't on the pitch anymore. We've scared him. We've literally sent him to retirement early, and we're 4-1 up in a huge derby game. Fantastic. And interesting enough, I'm looking at our short corner there, and I have noticed that the goalkeeper for Cardiff went long 90% of the time. So us not pressing that goalkeeper worked an absolute wonder. There we go. We've won the game 4-1. An incredible result. In terms of the performance, it's close. 13 shots to 11. Possession, we've dominated 61 to 39. And obviously now you got the post-match analysis, which will be another video. There's a lovely way to break down any of the areas. For example, those through balls for the striker who scored the goals. We can combat that by looking at who's maybe not marking their man, where the inadequacies on that pitch that we need to fix. Comment down below any of these tactical things you want us to look at in more detail. We're all happy to in the manager seat. And if you do like these type of videos, check this one out next. I'm sure you'll love it, and I'll catch you soon in the next video. Take care.